The Kings lose game three in San Francisco 114-97 to make the series 2-1 in the Kings' favor. And the Warriors bounced back like we thought they would. And, they took this game and it by the fourth quarter, it wasn't close, or at least by a few minutes into the fourth quarter. And a lot of that had to do with the Kings just not being able to hit a shot. A trend that has continued in all three of these games, which is, not fun. I was hoping at some point, or I was thinking at some point, we've got to start hitting threes. Maybe we'll just never hit threes. I don't know. But I mean, obviously, this is why winning the first two games was big. We knew that the Warriors were going to come back and respond, and it didn't matter that Draymond was out or Gary Payton was out. They were going to come back and respond. The only thing that matters is that Steph Curry wasn't out. But what was interesting about this game is the first quarter was pretty much the same exact script as the first two games, in that the Kings couldn't hit a shot, they weren't playing well, and yet they were still in it. Because I said the Warriors bounced back, but in the first three quarters, the Warriors really were not playing well, and the Kings just played even worse. I think the Warriors played better in terms of not turning the ball over and going to the offensive glass more, but they weren't like some unbeatable team. The Kings were in this game despite horrible shooting and really just horrible decision making offensively. And especially in that second quarter, there were so many times where the Warriors just handed the Kings a chance to get it back within, four. And the Kings just didn't take it. Each time they would usually make a dumb play offensively and turn the ball over, or they would allow an offensive rebound. And so those were the two big things for the Kings. Well, three big things: turnovers, defensive rebounding, and just not being able to hit a shot. The Kings' defense outside of rebounding was pretty good in this game, and they were forcing the Warriors into tough shots most of the time. And when I'm talking about this, I'm kind of just talking about the first three quarters. The fourth quarter was kind of a different story, but talking about the first three quarters, the Kings' defense was solid. They were forcing the Warriors into tough shots. They were rotating pretty well, not allowing clean looks from three, but they just couldn't get a rebound. The Warriors ended up with 19 offensive rebounds, 9 of those coming from Kevon Looney. The Kings had 13 of their own, but we should be out rebounding the Warriors. They have a tiny team, especially without Draymond Green. And time after time, it'd be like 3-on-1 for a rebound. And, would even be blocking out Looney. Someone's just got to come help from the other side and jump and get the ball. I mean, it's as simple as that on most of these. It's as simple as Sabonis is doing his job boxing out, because Sabonis is not some athletic guy that's going to jump and get the ball. That's not how he operates. So he's doing the boxing out. Someone's between like Herter, Keegan, Barnes, Monk, someone like that, just any of the guards really, or wings, just anybody needs to come and help and grab the ball, because Sabonis is doing all the hard work. The Kings just kept turning the ball over offensively, and I think were at times overcomplicating things. And I think part of it had to do with Draymond Green not being there made it so the Kings wanted to try to exploit that. And the way they did that was by going to Sabonis in the post a lot and playing a lot of pick and roll and trying to get into, uh, you know, favorable one-on-one matchups. And that's just not how they played most of game one and two. They did that at times, but they didn't do it for as big of stretches as in this game. And so I think that stagnated the offense a little bit. And then, I mean, the other aspect of it was just guys making dumb plays. Like, not really anything to do with scheme, just individuals making mental mistakes in terms of what passes they're making. So many times there's just a guy wide open for three, or even on inbounds plays, just a guy standing wide open right there, and they try to force the ball into somewhere where it just shouldn't be going. And a lot of times, even if that the ball would get through, it's like you're not really doing anything with the ball. Like Kevin Herter, I think it was Malik Monk or Davion Mitchell, one of those two tried to force the ball into Kevin Herter on an out of bounds play for no reason. Like he's in the corner, he would just catch the ball and then throw it to Sabonis instead of just throwing it to Sabonis, who was wide open there. And so I think that was kind of the story of this game offensively for the Kings. But again, they were in the game the whole time. It was, 6 point leads, maybe getting up to, 12, but until the third quarter, it got extended a little more then. But then even then the Kings came back at the end of the quarter and made a 12-point game and gave themselves a chance going into the fourth quarter, and then it just fell apart from there. And that's when the defense broke down for the Kings, was in that fourth quarter. And I thought Monk was especially bad defensively in the fourth quarter, leaving Curry open multiple times and just not rotating well. And you see why the Warriors played better at home. Their role players played better. Dante DiVincenzo played better, even though he didn't shoot well. Moody played better. Kuminga played better. And then other than that, it was just the Steph show. Wiggins contributing as well. But I mean, Steph was pretty good in this game, making some tough shots. But I think the frustrating part was when he would miss, especially I think was it at the end of the second quarter when Steph missed a three and Looney just rebounds it right back out to him for a 3-point shot with like 1.5 seconds left. And that was super frustrating. Keegan Murray and Kevin Herter just can't hit a shot. Uh, Keegan isn't getting super open. Like they're doing a good job defending him. Herter, on the other hand, is getting open looks, and he's just not knocking them down. He went 1 for 6. Keegan hit one in garbage time, and he went 1 for 4. Barnes also missing looks that he normally makes. He went 3 for 7, but some of them, at least one of them, if not like you can debate whether one of them was, but kind of he hit them in times that didn't matter. So like one or two of those came in times when it didn't really matter, or it was just like he made it to make it like a 12-point game with 6 minutes to go in the fourth or whatever it was. So it didn't really matter unless the Kings were going to make some huge comeback, which they definitely were not with the shooting that was happening in this one. And then Lyles couldn't hit a shot either. We had Terrence Davis minutes for 11 minutes. He hit his first one, but he was not good in this game. Davion Mitchell was the first player again to hit a three for the Kings. He's done that, I think, in game one and in this one. And that's not a good sign when a bench player is the first one to hit a three in two of your games. The starters' shooting has just been horrendous. And then Monk couldn't hit in this one. We were due for a Monk off game. I expected that. But other guys just haven't stepped up in place of that. Herter shot 6 for 12. He was doing a good job of getting into the mid range, getting to his floater. But someone's got to knock down threes. And that's really the biggest takeaway from this game. Is it's been 3 games now with just really not knocking down threes, and especially the last 2. And the Warriors were better defensively in this game, but that is not the reason the Kings are missing these. There are wide open looks. I'm giving them credit for their defense on Keegan Murray. I thought their defense on Sabonis has been good, but Kevin Herter is getting wide open looks. Harrison Barnes is getting wide open looks, and they just can't hit him. And Fox is having to do most of the 3-point shooting. And he's knocking down like timely 3-point shots, even if it's not at the best percentage, 3 for 9. But he has been knocking down some timely ones. Fox didn't have the most efficient first half, but he did turn it up a little bit and was scoring. I mean, you could tell that Fox realized the situation in the first half, and he turned it up before he normally does in a game. He was trying to carry the offensive load, and he just couldn't quite do it in that first half, and he was better in the third quarter and scoring a little bit there. And so he definitely was not the reason for this loss. 26 points, 10 rebounds, 9 assists. Sabonis, though, is pretty bad. I mean, he went 7 for 14, so that's better shooting game, but his turnovers were brutal in that first half. And I mean, he was the biggest culprit of when the Warriors would grant us opportunities to get back in the game. And then we just wouldn't take them because of dumb plays. And he had 4 assists to 6 turnovers, just is not going to cut it. And then another thing, I think it has to do with Draymond being suspended, but maybe not. I mean, because they did it a lot in game one, but it was just they posted Sabonis so many times, and it's just not working. Like, he's not going to beat someone in the post on a consistent basis, especially a guy that's smaller than him, but is strong. Like, he really struggles in the post against guys who are smaller but strong. Like, if you put a tall guy out on him, he's all season I've said this, he is better against taller opponents in the post. I think just because he's able to really bang with them, and he just, I don't know, he knows how to manipulate them more. But he struggles in the post against, smaller guys like Kevon Looney or even, Wiggins or Moody, whoever it is on him. He got a few post moves to go, but he was forcing a few shots and struggling on him. And I think that, you could say that for a lot of the Kings is forcing a lot of shots inside, like just single drives. And then the Warriors were collapsing and the Kings were not making the pass to the perimeter a lot of the times. This happened with Monk. It happened with Lyles. I think those were the two guys that I especially noticed it from. Driving and then just kind of going into a guy's body and throwing it off the glass and either hoping you get a foul call or you make it. And neither of those things were ever happening. And so I think there just was a lack of ball movement compared to games 1 and 2. After the first two games, the lack of shooting, it was just kind of like, man, we won the first two games even though we were shooting poorly. We'll start shooting better. And then now it's like, oh, this is actually a concern. Like, are we ever going to start shooting better? And if we don't, we're probably going to lose this series. But at the same time, the Warriors have not looked good in this series, so maybe there's still a chance even if we aren't knocking down. But that is the most encouraging thing, is that the Warriors for the first like 2.5 quarters of this game did not look good. And we were still in it despite playing probably our worst offensive game of the season. And so if we can just get to average shooting or even slightly below that with the way that we've been defending, like, we can win games like that because our defense has been a lot better than many people anticipated coming into this series. A big number in this game is the points off turnovers, as it was in the last game when the Kings dominated that. And this time it was the Warriors at 22 points off 15 Kings turnovers, whereas we only had 7 off their 12. So the turnover margin wasn't even that big, but the points off, very big. And I think a lot of that has to do with the Kings, when they would get a steal, would just give it right back. But yeah, the rebounding numbers. Also, the Kings still can't hit a free throw. 69% from the free throw line in this game. That's rough. 23% from three, 38 from the field. But again, the Warriors only shot 40% from the field, 32% from three. Like, that is what's encouraging about this game, is the Kings have been able to do the exact same thing to the Warriors. It truly does feel like the 3 games in this series have been pretty identical in terms of how they were played, and in all 3 of them the home team won. Probably just because, yes, neither team can shoot, but when you're at home, you get that crowd advantage. You get your role players play better at home. That's just something that is always said about playoff series or even regular season, just role players play better at home. And I think that's the difference in all three of the games so far. I didn't totally expect the Kings to win this game, but I think the most frustrating thing was not the 3-point shooting, because again, that's just like it's frustrating, but it's not the thing that I'm angry with or anything, because it's just like if you hit him, you hit him. Um, but the most frustrating thing is I think the rebounding, because it just there was a lack of energy for the entire game and there was never an adjustment made. And then the Kings just need to get back to controlling the pace of the game. They need to keep running 100 miles per hour down the court at all times against the Warriors, because honestly, I think the Kings turn the ball over more in the half court than they do in transition. The Kings are a good half court offense team. They didn't show it in this one, and so they need to get back to running, because the only way their half court offense is going to be good is if they can hit a three, and right now they can't. So they need to get all they can in transition. One thing that was crazy about this game was how many threes the Warriors shot in the first quarter. It was up near 20, maybe more. It was crazy. They ended with 50 attempts, but the Kings almost caught up with 47, and that was a big problem for the Kings, because the Warriors are gonna shoot threes. That's just that's their MO. That's not ours. And when that's not working, we just got to get inside more. But I think it was I've criticized before the Kings settling for threes early in the shot clock. And I think what I was mostly talking about was like after the first pass or no passes, a shot. In this game, it was a little different, because I think there was always one action and then a shot. And they just needed to get more than one action per possession going, because when you get more than one action going per possession, that's going to create mismatches, that's going to create rotation. And what that does, especially to a smaller team who is without Draymond Green, that creates a lot more opportunities inside and a lot more mismatches and a lot more opportunity for cutting to exploit the lack of size from the Warriors. And even when Draymond's back, even if Gary Payton's back, that doesn't change. You can still exploit a size advantage by getting into more than one action before the shot. And so I think that was something the Kings did too much, was settling for a not so great 3-point look after just one action on the possession. Another thing that happened in this game was Keegan Murray picking up 3 fouls early. And, he got pulled from the game after that. He probably would have been pulled from the game anyways, because he was just not playing well. And so, I mean, before this game, I was on the side of you keep starting Keegan, because you don't mess with what's working, and you hope that he gets into a flow. Well, he's obviously not, and he's giving it up way too much on the other end. And so in the second half, I was hoping we would see Davion start. He didn't. And what happened was he came in with, around the 8-minute mark like he usually does, and then Steph went out around the 6-minute mark, and Davion went out to match him. But it's like, if you're gonna match Davion with Steph, then it doesn't make sense to sit him the first 4 minutes of the quarter, have him come in for 2 and then rest him when Steph rests. I don't really think that makes sense. So I think I have now been converted to the side of we should start Davion and start him defending Curry, because he has done a tremendous job. Again, he was good in this one. He knocked down a three. I don't think he knocked down another three after that. But he also made a really nice move inside for a layup against Curry. That was really nice. And then just his defense on Curry has been suffocating. And he is obviously our best on-ball defender and our best option against Curry there. So I hope he starts in the next game personally. But the Kings just need to get more production from their starters in terms of 3-point shooting. Because the first 3 games, I've just been sitting there begging for the subs to come in and save us. And in this game, they didn't save us. And that was the problem. Trey Lyles and Malik Monk did not save us. Davion did what he could, but you're not going to get that bench production, 3 games in a row, I guess. I guess 2 games is the limit. So we need something from the starters, from Herter, from Keegan, from Barnes. We got to get 3-point shooting from them. Anyways, that is it for this episode of the Roll Report. 2-1 series. Kings still lead. Even if they lose the next one, they still have home court. That's what's still good about all of this. So anyways, if you enjoyed, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. If you're listening to the audio version of this podcast, make sure to leave a rating and a review. You can follow me on Twitter at _the Roll Report, and I will be back with you to recap the next game on Sunday of this series, Game 4. Peace.